So, what is Black girl depression? We know that for Black women and Black girls, the symptoms that we exhibit of depression are often different than what we see in media, than what we see in pop culture, and they often go overlooked by mental health professionals. So, if you are a Black woman or a Black girl and you are experiencing depression, but you're Googling it and your symptoms are not really lining up with what you're finding, you're not alone, and this video is for you. Welcome to the channel. Here we talk about Black women's experiences. This is a safe space for Black women to share our experiences, share our knowledge, resources with each other, all in the goal of getting free and healing. So getting free of societal expectations, oppressive systems and structures, and really centering ourselves. So if that sounds good to you, I would love for you to subscribe, comment, like, and share this video. This video is in response to a recent segment on Good Morning America, what to know about Black girl depression. And in this segment, it was really talked about the symptoms of depression that Black women exhibit, that Black girls exhibit, that are different than what we see depicted in media, different than what we see even depicted, laid out rather, in the Diagnostic and Statistical manual, which is the manual that mental health professionals use to diagnose mental health disorders. So what are some of those symptoms to look out for? Irritability is one of the key ones, right? So if you are experiencing irritability, if you are really short-tempered with the people around you, if you are exhausted, right? That's another symptom. So irritability, exhaustion. And we know that typically these may not appear like we typically see depression laid out, depicted in media, right, in pop culture, because our experiences are so different, because we are socialized to push through pain, right, to not have space, a safe space to share our sadness, to share the things that we're going through, and just have to kind of push it down and keep going. That's the message that we receive all the time. And so that impacts how depression affects us, how it shows up in our lives, right? In some of those ways, again, irritability, and anger, right? We are battling this stereotype of the angry Black woman all the time. And we know that that is anti-Black, right? That is misogynoirist. That has to be said. And we're battling this. What if the anger that we are displaying is actually a symptom of depression? What if we are actually sad inside, but we don't have space to express that sadness? We don't feel like we're able to. So it manifests in anger, right? The limitations on our feelings and emotions placed on us by a white supremacist society leads us to experience different symptoms because we don't have space to share what's really going on. So it manifests differently, right? Also, like I said, exhaustion. If you are completely depleted, you have no energy, you are looked at, right, as the one who does everything, the one who does everything for everyone, and you don't even have the emotional capacity for you. That might be a symptom of depression. You are depleted, right? You're depleted. And it's important to know, as I go through some of these other symptoms, that these diagnoses are often limited. Because again, they are based on a white standard. A white standard that does not take into account systems of oppression that we are living in every single day, trying our best to survive, right? And intersectionality, a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, talking about the different intersections of race, class, gender, ability, right? All of these things that kind of, these forces that compound and impact how we're navigating the world. They impact how people treat us, which can lead to some of these symptoms of depression. So that's important to note, right? As people in the mental health space, these manuals that we're taught to use, and again, I'm not a clinical social worker, so I want to make that clear. I do have limited experience with the DSM, which is used again to diagnose mental health disorders. But these are limiting, and we have to be honest about that. No, it does not take into account the impact of anti-Blackness, of misogynoir, No, none of these diagnoses do. And so they're always coming from a point of not really being able to label what we're going through properly. And so therefore, if you are a Black woman or a Black girl and you're going into a mental health professional who is not well versed in how symptoms of depression may show up differently, and they don't believe sometimes, I mean, honestly, they don't believe what you're experiencing is depression right off the bat, because they're using a manual that was not created with us in mind to diagnose us. But the more that we can educate each other, right? Again, this channel is about community knowledge sharing, sharing resources, ways to heal with each other. And as a social worker, right, I know that I have the letters behind my name are very powerful. And I hope to be able to continue to break down why so many of us are experiencing these things not being properly diagnosed, the problem with diagnoses in the first place, and realizing they can also be helpful in putting together a treatment plan. So there's all of these things, right, that we're just trying to navigate, trying to live in systems that were not created for us. They weren't created for us to survive. They definitely were not created for us to thrive. And we are having to educate ourselves. Again, right? Bringing in knowledge from the past. What might this be? If I am experiencing exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, irritability, anger, right? Some physical symptoms to get into: headaches, stomach pain, back pain, joint pain, fatigue, appetite changes. So your body knows. Your body knows when you are not well, right? It's giving you signals through these things. And especially a lot of us, I talk on my channel a lot about toxic jobs. As a toxic job survivor, a lot of the symptoms of depression I was experiencing manifested in physical symptoms. So if you are experiencing, again, insomnia, stomach pain, back pain, joint pain, and you don't really know where it's coming from, could it be depression? Could it be feelings of sadness that you're pushing down? Because we've been taught that we have to push through pain. There is no space for us to be able to share our pain. And I hope this channel continues to be a safe space for us to do so. With each other, learning from each other, sharing resources, guidance with each other, right? Another symptom that may show up, right? Superwoman syndrome, which is what the Good Morning America segment touched on. Superwoman syndrome taking on even more. When we start to feel those initial symptoms of sadness, despair, we push them down. Again, they might show up externally differently as anger, as irritability. But as we push those down, sometimes we try to do even more. Sometimes we take on even more tasks. If we're already exhausted, we will seek out more tasks because we think that something's wrong with us. And we just need to do more. Because we have been taught, we have been socialized in the society, right, to take on even more. That we don't have space to be sad. We don't have time. We are viewed as machines, right? Shout out to Trisha Hersey of the NAP ministry. We're viewed as machines. We are. And so that may lead to that superwoman syndrome as a symptom of depression, showing up as doing more, right? Taking on more events, leading more family functions. A lot of us have so many responsibilities on our plates. And so when we begin to go down that road of noticing something feels off, because we've been socialized to believe that we should be able to handle anything, we take on even more. And that leads to a downward spiral often. And I can speak from experience, right? Coming from a toxic job, I took on even more duties. I sought out even more tasks, even if I was drowning internally, thinking that I had to do more, that I had to take on more because something was wrong with me, because everyone has told me I should just be able to endure. That's dehumanizing. You should not have to just endure. right? And the more of us that can talk about our experiences, make space for the things that we are really feeling, right? Being honest with ourselves, journaling, voice noting, which I always advocate for, really getting in touch with yourself, reflecting, how do I really feel? Because that's the first step of change, is bringing your awareness to self. How is this really impacting me? Right? Once you have these lists of symptoms that I'm laying out in this video, you might notice you're exhausted, drained, experiencing irritability, might display signs of anger, being short with the people around you, not having energy for tasks that you normally do, so you might be taking on even more. Any of these symptoms, if it sounds relatable, I would love for you to put it in the comments if you feel comfortable sharing. No pressure at all. But we learn from each other, right, as we share our experiences. So I would love to hear if you can relate to any of this in the comments. And again, I have an entire playlist on Black women's mental health that I will link in the description as we begin to talk more openly about these things that so many of us are experiencing, right? Depression is unfortunately common, and it's underdiagnosed amongst Black women and girls. Because again, the tools that are being used to diagnose us, they don't fit with what we're actually experiencing day to day. And then our symptoms are overlooked because they don't align with the standards that have been laid out, because those standards were never created for us. Right? So we're coming at this from a huge disadvantage. But we can take our power back by sharing what we've experienced with each other. That's huge, right? Community knowledge sharing. So even if I don't see my symptoms laid out in this manual that was created to diagnose mental health disorders, even if I don't see it there, can I talk with other Black women who have gone through this? And as they share, light bulbs go off in my head. I'm like, insomnia. That was a symptom that I experienced of depression. Not being able to sleep, right? Dealing with constant rumination of thoughts that would just not go away, especially if you're in toxic environments, right? In toxic relationships, toxic workplaces, toxic countries, right? We know that the effects of, especially coming from the US, right, as a Black woman, the effects of seeing everything around us be so antagonistic, so vile towards us, what impacts does that have? Right? What impacts does that have? And how does that lead us to experience these symptoms, which may be depression, that are then overlooked? Right? So I would love for y'all, if this resonates, to comment below, to watch my playlist on Black women's mental health, Black women healing. I have a lot of great interviews that I have done with mental health professionals, other people who are in the healing space, who are bravely sharing knowledge, resources within this community, so that even if we are left out of these conversations, right, and going back to this being a response video to what to know about Black girl depression, the fact that it even has to be labeled as Black girl depression lets me know that we're being left out of these conversations entirely, while we are the ones who are suffering the most often from these systems, from living day to day in hostility directed towards us, right? Of having so much labor, extra labor placed on our shoulders, and we're just expected to endure. What impact does that have on our mental health? That's real. And that cannot be understated. The extra labor that we're just expected to just push forward and not be impacted by. That is dehumanizing. And by sharing our experiences, what we've been through, sharing these symptoms, again, things to look out for: irritability, right? Anger, the superwoman syndrome. If you're finding yourself actively taking on even more tasks when you know that you're drained, you know that you're exhausted, but you think something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. You need to rest. You need to rest. And you may be experiencing depression, right? And medication can also assist with that. If you do seek out professional help, right, from a mental health professional, I'll link that in the description too, mental health resources. It's important to ask them, to interview the therapist and ask them, are you familiar with the ways that depression may show up differently in Black women and Black girls? I mean, just, openly ask them. Because a lot are not, unfortunately. And the more that we, educate about these issues, about the limitations of the ways in which we are diagnosed, hopefully more therapists can become aware of these things, because we're really out here suffering and not realizing that what we are experiencing is in fact depression, right? So as we wrap up this video, again, I want to make it known, right? Even if you don't have symptoms that line up with what you're Googling, if you are a Black woman or a Black girl, but you know that something's off, you know that, hey, I'm feeling like completely depleted. I don't have any energy to do anything. And yet I'm taking on even more. That might be depression. And you may want to seek out, again, mental health support through therapy, through counseling, which I will link resources to those in the description. But I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if this content, this video is interesting to you. If you're interested in this content around Black women healing, getting free, seeking lives of freedom, I would love for you to do that. I also created a free Reflect and Create guide that you can download in the description. And yeah, I think that's it. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. And please, if you feel comfortable doing so, sharing your experiences about depression in the comments so that we can learn from each other and heal together. I would love to see them. And again, please subscribe, like this video, and share it with other Black women and girls. All right. Thank y'all. Until next time.